The dark truth behind Masha and the Bear. Masha and the Bear is one of the most beloved cartoons of our time, enjoyed by millions of children around the world. Yet what most people don't realize is that this animated series is not purely a work of fiction. It is loosely inspired by an ancient Russian folktale, and even tied to a tragic real-life event from over 2 centuries ago. Are you ready to uncover the chilling reality behind the cheerful little girl and her bear companion? Let's dive into the story. One of the first details worth knowing is that the girl's name, Masha, wasn't her actual name in the original story. To this day, nobody really knows who she was in Russia. Masha is a common nickname for Maria. And since the tale was about a small child, the affectionate nickname stuck. This matters because, in the story, Masha is a little girl who will remain 4 years old forever. She will never grow up. Soon, you'll understand the disturbing reason behind this. So while the cartoon presents her as a lively child living with a friendly bear, the original folk story is far darker. Nobody knew the girl's true identity, because the story was already very old when it was first told, passed down orally through generations in Russian villages. The tale eventually inspired animator Oleg Kuzovkov to create the modern cartoon, which has since spread to over 100 countries. In the animated series, Masha is portrayed as an energetic girl living in a bear's home. Her companion, a huge bear who once performed in the circus, now protects her from harm and helps her through adventures. But the folk version is nothing like this light-hearted story. In fact, it's frightening. The original folktale, long ago, a young girl, known as Masha, lived with her grandparents in a village. One day she begged them to let her go into the forest with her friends to collect mushrooms and berries. Her grandparents eventually agreed, but her grandfather sternly warned her not to stray too far, for the forest was filled with dangerous bears. Excited, Masha rushed into the woods, planning to bake sweet pies later with whatever fruit and berries she gathered. She became so caught up in playing with her friends that she wandered too far and soon realized she was lost. When she called out, no one answered. Eventually, exhausted and frightened, she stumbled upon a small wooden cabin hidden deep in the forest. Hoping someone inside could help, she stepped through the open door. But the house was empty and unknown to her. It belonged to a huge, menacing bear. When the bear returned at night, he immediately detected her presence. His sharp nose and ears made it impossible for her to hide. Terrified, Masha begged him not to eat her. The bear, already full, decided not to devour her immediately. Instead, curious about what she carried in her bag, he questioned her. Thinking quickly, Masha told him she could bake delicious pies if he spared her life. The greedy bear agreed, on one condition: she would have to stay in the cabin forever and keep cooking for him, or she would become his next meal. So Masha was trapped. She cooked, cleaned, and pleaded for her freedom. But the bear only threatened her with death if she tried to leave. Cleverly, Masha came up with another plan. She asked the bear to let her deliver pies to her grandparents, so they would stop searching for her. The bear refused, suspecting she would run away, but offered to deliver them himself. This was exactly what Masha wanted. She baked her pies, packed them into a basket, and secretly hid inside it. The bear, unable to detect a scent beneath the aroma of freshly baked pies, carried the heavy basket toward the village. On the way, whenever he grew tired and considered opening the basket for a snack, Masha called out from inside, tricking him by saying, "Don't eat from the basket. Your pie is much bigger and waiting for you at home." Believing she was nearby watching him, the foolish bear continued. When he finally reached the village, guard dogs surrounded him, barking and biting. Terrified, the bear dropped the basket and fled. At last, Masha climbed out, safe and alive, and joyfully reunited with her grandparents. She never set foot in the forest again. The folktale is much darker than the cartoon we know today, full of sinister themes: captivity, threats of being eaten, and a child forced into slavery by a beast. But the legend itself is not the creepiest part, because behind this tale lies a real event, one far more tragic. The real-life event, 1820, Russia. The The frightening origin of Masha and the bear comes from an incident in 1820 in a Russian village. Masha was a curious little girl who adored stories and excitement. When she heard that a circus was coming to town, her heart filled with joy. Back then, circuses were both marvelous and cruel. Clowns, magicians, and musicians entertained the crowds, while animals like lions and elephants performed dangerous tricks. But the highlight for Masha was the trained bears, who could ride bicycles and amaze the audience. Sadly, the animals were often mistreated, kept in poor conditions, and were aggressive. When the circus arrived, Masha begged her parents to take her. They agreed, and the family happily went to the show. Everything seemed magical. The clowns made the crowd roar with laughter. The magicians stunned everyone with illusions, and the music made the night feel festive. Yet Masha cared only about seeing the bears. The ringmaster announced that the bear tamer was too ill to perform, so the bears would not appear that evening. This crushed Masha. Obsessed, she slipped away while her parents were distracted, wandering backstage where the animals were kept. There, she discovered the bear cages. Innocent and naive, she only wanted to pet them and play. But the cages were locked. Looking around, she spotted a key on a nearby table. Without hesitation, she grabbed it and unlocked the cage. The moment the door creaked open, her fantasy collapsed into horror. The enormous bear lunged at her with unimaginable strength. Masha screamed as the animal mauled her. The show halted instantly, and people rushed with weapons to stop the attack. But by the time the bear was subdued, it was too late. The little girl had lost her life. This horrific tragedy shocked the community, and over time, it grew into the folktale of the girl who lived with an evil bear. Parents retold the story as a warning to children: never wander too far, and never go near wild animals. Generations later, Oleg Kuzovkov reimagined the tale into the cheerful cartoon we see today. The creepy theory. The cartoon Masha and the Bear has been running since 2009, entertaining children everywhere. But some fans believe a chilling theory: Masha is actually a ghost. In the series, she never grows older. She remains a 4-year-old forever. Time doesn't pass, and she never leaves the bear's cabin. This mirrors the original tale where she was trapped, and also connects to the real-life tragedy where the girl died. Even the detail that the bear once worked in a circus hints at the real 1820 accident. According to this theory, the cheerful little girl in the cartoon is the spirit of the child who lost her life long ago, visible only to animals. It's a dark and unsettling interpretation of a show that seems innocent and joyful on the surface, but it explains why Masha never ages, why her name is used instead of Maria, and why her bond with the bear feels so unusual. And that is the true story behind Masha and the Bear. What began as a terrifying folk tale and a tragic, real-life event has been transformed into one of the most popular children's cartoons in the world.